Today we're going to start building the various spars, masts, etc. And the first challenge we have is to make the main mast, which actually has a square section at the top, unlike the front or foremast, which is round from the top to the bottom. This is the main mast, which is the only wooden section that has a square at the top. The front foremast is round, tapered from 8 millimeters down to 6. The spanker boom, which is the main boom, again relatively straightforward, tapered on both ends. The forestay sail booms, the two of them are relatively straightforward. The main top gallant, which fits here, and of course the bowsprit, which we've already done. And the last one is the forestaysail boom, which fits on the front jib. Into my dirty shop we go, and we have the piece of juniper which we're stripping. This is being done on my Proxon, which really is fantastic for doing this. And we're just trying to get both sides square, a little oversized, so we can take it down on the lathe. Now I go over to the gym barns with the sliding table that I made up. And again, I can't stress whether you buy Jim's sliding table, which based on the tool, his sliding table would be tremendous, or you build one like me. This is an essential tool and really makes this type of work very, very easy, where you have to make multiple repetitive cuts without the courtesy of a fence or a square. You need to have a trial piece which you send through to make sure you have the settings correct. And once it's done, we put a chisel on it, take off all the pieces, and you can actually polish this on the saw by dragging it up and down. To prevent yourself making a mistake, I suggest you take a pencil and mark the areas that you want to stop the cut at, and make it very, very visual. In my case, I tend to put lots of marks on my pieces, like I'm doing here, for instance, to cut out the space for the bibs. It's just so easy to make an error when you're doing multiple pieces, and the simplest way is to make the marks big and glaring so that you really can't make an error. Now that we've got the square section done, we need to taper the rest of the stock. And the two ways to do that is, one, that you draw a line from the 6 millimeter line back down to the 8 millimeter line on all four sides and plane it, which on a piece this size is quite difficult. And here is an example of me doing exactly that. And you can just see from the difficulty, even holding it in place is a real challenge. But it can be done, and if you're very good with a plane afterwards, you can in fact take the stock down, following these lines very carefully. Another way is to taper it on the lathe. Now on my lathe, which is an imperial lathe, strangely enough I have an imperial lathe and a metric milling machine. That's another story. But on the imperial lathe, there are 50 measurements on the wheel, and I'm going to slip between metric and imperial, forgive me. And we need to take off 2 millimeters as per the kit to go from 6 to 8. If I move this wheel 2.5 times, I will go from 8 millimeters down to 6 millimeters. So I've divided the mast, which I'm going to taper, into 6 zones, and eventually I'll get this tapered down to sections, and then all I need to do is sand the transition points and I get a nice even taper all the way down. This is the way I've found is the simplest way on the lathe to get a taper. The first thing we do is to locate the center and create a point on both ends. And the next job we have is to take the plane, a little hand plane, and to take the edge off of the square so that when we put it on the lathe, we don't have so much work. So we're just going to roughly round it off. And remember, all wood has a right way and a wrong way. So you'll quickly understand which is the right way to plane it. And if you're good, you can really plane as efficiently as I can. And here we have the rounded mast, and now we can put it on the lathe and take it down to 8 millimeters right across the entire mast. So here we have the mast in place. We've got a steady rest in the middle, which we will move on and off depending on if it's in the way. And this is the 4 millimeter square top section. And then from this piece down to here, roughly, we're going to take this down to 6 millimeters. At the end here, we're going to take it down to 8 millimeters. And then we'll have various thicknesses as we come up, coming from the 6 all the way back to the 8. Now that we've got this end just a little bit above 6, we're going to switch it around. So this is one end, this is almost finished. And we're going to take this end down now to 8. We could slow down the speed, which we're going to do. And we're going to smoothen the area where the steady rest sits so that we get less vibration on the piece. We have prepared this round surface, which is just a little under the 8 millimeters, which is what we will have the base here. But it's a nice smooth round. And then we put the steady rest on. Now we're going to take this, which is just above the 8 millimeters, and bring it all the way to here. And then turn this wheel down 4 of these marks here. So now what we're going to do is take some rough sandpaper and take this down. And you see it's disappeared, so we've actually got a taper from here down to this piece. So now we next work on this one, and we simply move the steady rest down once more. Now we're going to take this one down, and we take it down just 4 millimeters below this. So the first thing to do is to get it back to here. The truth is, it doesn't have to be exactly 3.2. Once it's not a big variation between the various zones, because you are going to be tapering it. That's perfect. So now we're going to take this one down another 4 points on the wheel. So this here is 7.6, so we're going to take this down 4 points again. And that's 7, so just enough to take this down, and remember this is still a little high. So we're going to move the steady rest now over here and attack the last piece. So this was a 150 sandpaper that took it down, and now we are going to go to a 600 to put the final finish on it. An absolutely perfect taper. And here she is, fitted on the ship. We had a slight adjustment to get her to fit on the deck itself, but really came out perfect. So we're going to bring this video to an end to try and keep it under around 11 minutes. And we'll, in the next video, look at the construction of all the other pieces.